Hey everybody, what's up? Today we're talking the tragedy in Charlottesville and a lot more on Black Hollywood Lives this week.
You are tuned in to Black Hollywood Live this week.
I was waiting for the beat.
It was a little delayed.
It's a delayed beat. Oh, wait, we all are like, you got the snap too. All right, Jeff, I see you with the lyrics already.
Oh,
ready to
y'all
sing
know I love Childish. I was on the Atlanta panel with Joel Monique.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
This usually might be my favorite panel in the history of my time here.
I think I
pretty
agree.
great.
But besides this one, right?
Sure.
I'm just letting it play for a second. That's it. That's it. I just like feeling this beat. All right. What's up? Oh, Jeff, I see you. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Black Hollywood Lives this week. I am your host, Derrial, Christon. Jesse Janity is not here today, nor is Rachel True, but we do have two great co-hosts that are existing with us today. One requested this song by...
And guess which one it was?
Guess which one it was.
I'm full of surprises, guys.
Right. So I'm gonna start with him actually. Jeff Graham, Mr. Jeff Graham, who
Welcome
is
back.
What up, guys? It's Jeff Graham. If you guys want to find me online, you can do so at Jeffrey C. Graham. Y'all know I love the show, and I'm so excited to be here.
It's been so long,
been a
Jeff.
while.
It's been
Last
since,
time we were
like,
here,
Olympics.
I think the biggest story was like, should Simone Biles have smiled during her medal
Exactly.
ceremony? So it's a bit of a different show this week,
Yeah.
but this week.
Well, he did request Childish Gambino, so we were not mad at him for that. Also joining me is Joelle Monique.
Hey guys, it's good to be back.
And of course, rock star, black chic, black diva over there, Courtney Stewart.
Black chic, black diva. That's an interesting intro. Hey y'all, what's up?
You saw, hey, it's so
Hey, y'all.
interesting.
That
Hey,
was-
y'all. That was like very anticlimactic. Let's try this
It was,
again,
like,
Courtney.
very-
I
Courtney
loved it.
Stewart,
Well,
come
because
on.
it was like, oh, wait, which one? And I didn't know where to go with it.
Well, you're both, so
if I'm being all
pick
the way
one.
real, my tongue is real dry. I had too much champagne on Cherie's show, and I'm just trying to focus in my life right now. That's what it's about.
Well, I ain't mad at
That's
you
what
for
life
that.
is about.
I ain't
That's
mad
what
at you
life
for
is
that.
about. Yeah.
Well, we got a lot of interesting topics today. I guess they're
Interesting is a good word, y'all.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a word.
Is a
Is
word.
it the word? I don't know.
But it includes Trump, LeBron James.
I know, we're talking about a lot of people.
A lot of people
A lot
today.
of people, a lot of different
Steve Harvey.
things. Steve Harvey, all kinds of stuff. And because we're awesome, we're going to open up with Trump. So, well, okay, technically we're not going to open up with Trump. I mean, I guess it's like a bigger conversation about
Right.
the country that we've had for like the last hour and a half in the studio, actually.
Yes.
So hopefully you guys were, maybe, you know what, hopefully you were under a rock and you were like existing in a fantasy space with unicorns and butterflies and rainbows over the weekend, and you missed all the bullshit that went down over the weekend, which included hundreds of white nationalists, alt-righters, and neo-Nazis that traveled their way to Charlottesville, Virginia to have themselves a Unite the Right rally, under sort of the guise of saying that they were like there to rally in support for not removing the Robert E. Lee statue that was in the town square. And it went south, obviously, in more ways than one, and 3 people ended up dead from it. 1 protester and 2 police officers ended up losing their lives because of it. And
20
you know,
injured.
Yeah, many injured who like, God. In the end, we all, for, you know, regular old American reasons, like looking to the president like, all right, bro, like what you gonna say about that? He didn't say anything like the day it happened, the Sunday it happened, or the Sunday morning after it happened. He waited till Monday, and basically he's made some comments essentially sort of blaming both sides for the violence that happened and whatnot, and people came for him, including his own party, as well as Democrats, as well as regular old folks out in the regular world, like, yo, these were Nazis with Nazi flags, talking about kill the Jews, white people live, like kinds of stuff. And he apparently got offended from what we were hearing from inner circles
Yeah.
of the White House. And he was super upset that people were chastising him for not being harsh enough or being very direct in terms of his condemnation of the neo-Nazis and the people that were at the rally. So when he was doing a different press conference, like in the golden lobby of Trump Tower in Midtown Manhattan on Tuesday, when he wasn't supposed, or allegedly wasn't supposed to be talking about what happened in Charlottesville or his speech about Charlottesville, he decided that he needed to let all y'all know what he meant and that y'all just weren't clear, apparently. And he went on to say things such as, quote, I think there is blame on both sides. What about the alt-left that came charging at, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt? What about the fact that they came charging with clubs in hand, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do. Quote, you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. Nobody wants to say it, but I will say it right now. Then this
Asshole.
motherfucker went on and he said, you know, things to the effect of, I mean, it was some good people up at the neo-Nazi rally. They just didn't want their history to be pulled down with that Robert E. Lee statue. And if they're going to pull Robert E. Lee down, then what else are they going to do? What about George Washington's statues? What about Thomas Jefferson? Where does it end, guys? So he basically like scared up all the white people that's already scared. Was like, oh, you're right. America's history is being pulled down by... Fuck, I don't even know who they think is being pulled down but it's being pulled down by somebody. So that was his response, and obviously people have been upset, and some people have been super pumped and excited and think Trump is the future.
Yeah. I feel like it's just very un-American to support the losing side. And I feel like Trump's base should really be upset about that. Like, why are we focusing on the Confederacy? Like, losers and traitors.
That's an awesome take. If someone pitched that to Trump, he might find that might be the only way to get him to not, because he's such a megalomaniacal winner, quote unquote, that like just being like, thank you. But just being like, oh, no, like he lost. That might be the only way to get it through his dumbass thick skull that like, that it's like, I like that, like maybe that's just like a smart take for him.
I feel like people aren't going to hear anything else. Like, I could pontificate for hours about like, oh, you know, it's really sucky that you think black people are less than you, or brown people, or Jewish people because they just have a different religion than you. But I feel like they're not going to hear that. But if I say, you know, you're rooting for losers, maybe.
Well, the crazy thing is he's so warped in this presidency that he's actually causing so much conflict, even with his party. Because now they're actually saying that even his party and his team are looking at him cockeyed and crazy.
Which you should,
because they said that he's fueling all this racial tension.
Right,
and even today, he was tweeting out about, in the midst of this tragedy that's happened where people were killed, hurt, he's still tweeting out about the monuments and like the statues and like, what are you doing?
Because that's what's important to him. He's just showing his true face, which I think is ridiculous because Trump has shown himself since day one. Like, the people who are like, I can't believe you do this as president. Like, when he was running, he said all Mexicans were rapists. Like, this is not new or different information. This is just him being him. I'm so scared, guys.
Well,
it's crazy that feeling of like you're living in the chapter of your children's history books. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a very, just like it's a tangibly tense time in our country right now. It's very, I interrupted you, D.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like, it's interesting when you mentioned that like even internally the party's a mess. It's because there's a lot of white Republicans who are like, whoa, like I might want smaller government, but like this man does not speak for me. These people do not speak for me. And yeah, it's like, you know, there's just an element of like a lot of Republicans who happen to be white are like, this is not
who we are.
Our voice. Like it's crazy.
I mean, the GOP senators are still they're upset with him. They're criticizing him, you know. So it's like that says a lot.
They're criticizing him, but they're also not actively attempting to remove him.
I know.
So in the end, like, what does that really mean?
Right.
Like, because in the end, you're like, okay, yeah, you wilding out right now, but you still have support of 47% of the Republican base or something, and we still want to be a part of that. So in my world, that makes you even worse of a human being, and I'm even more disgusted. Because I know there's been like some specific, like I think Lindsey Graham specifically came out and directly said like, that's absurd, how dare you say such a thing, blah, 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 blah. And I think there were like 2 or 3 other senators, like one from Arizona, I think McCain might have said something, I don't remember. He might have said, I think he said something from the Monday speech. But regardless, like there's no like mass movement on the part of Republicans to get him out of office, remove him.
Well, I did read something, I don't know how true this is, but I did read something yesterday that said that he's actually, the votes for him to get impeached are actually closer than what we think that they are. I don't know what that means. I don't know how much merit that really means. Realistically, do I think it's really going to happen? Unfortunately not.
Last I heard that they were trying to do the 25th Amendment to determine that he's unfit and mentally unstable to be whatever.
Is. I mean, are we questioning that he's not?
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
That in a court of law, though.
Yeah.
With just a YouTube video?
Right. Can we just go back to his tweets and just look at
I just feel like anytime he
tweets?
speaks, it's so clear that he's not an adult. I'm just this is a child.
A man-child.
Oh, very much. I know teenagers who are way more adult than he is.
Just nuanced. Just
that's the thing. I was talking about this with you. Is he just doesn't even seem smart enough. That's what I'm like. Obviously there's there's huge issues, but I'm just on a base level. He doesn't seem smart enough to be doing the job he's doing. He doesn't have the vocabulary to express what he wants to say.
Going back to our point earlier, I feel like there are some people out there who are the massively educated are ruining us as a society. There's I think a belief that if you're educated, you are not authentic or a true American in some subgroups.
If you're educated, you're a socialist / borderline communist, and therefore you could not possibly be.
And you've never worked hard or whatever other kind of crazy things go along with that. And I think that that's one of the things that's exciting about that for his base is he's not intelligent. That's so weird.
He speaks on the same fifth grade level that we all do.
Well, what does that say about Americans too?
Well,
that's what's even scary.
That's true, but that's not changing the fact that it exists.
What are we 33rd in a lot of educational places?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. 60 or 70 in math. It doesn't surprise me. I grew up in a real terrible education system. Got lucky with a couple of teachers who cared and were vital and were there. But our education system is crap. The people working inside of it hate it. I can't even imagine how it's continued to degrade since I got out 10 years ago.
But
it doesn't shock
Betsy DeVos, and she's gonna make it all better.
Right, exactly.
Girl, I
It's
can't.
gonna be all
But what's
better.
even scary to me, I was having this conversation with some friends the other day, is that it is 2017, and we not only are still having, Nazi racist rallies, literally the same type of things that happened in the 60s are happening right now. And I feel like they're actually starting to happen a little bit even more. In the last, think about the last year about how much stuff is just really racially, just the racial tension that's happened. And he's just fueling this so much. And it's scary to me to think about where we're going to go after this. Where do we go from this? Because he's setting us back 50 years.
I don't think so. I honestly think that this is something that's we've been seeing since Obama. We saw a giant boom in white nationalist groups and organizations. The Southern Poverty Law Center has been working overtime, logging all these people and incidences in. I feel like there's a direct correlation to Dylan Roof, to the LAPD in 1992, to it doesn't stop. I think maybe what's changed is our ability to communicate, speak, and visibly see these actions happening. And I think when you look at Trump just as somebody who understands advertising well, if nothing else, it becomes a lot less scary. What we saw over the weekend is a subgroup of kids who live on Reddit. I don't even want to call it kids. These are full-grown adults who are on Reddit and the dark web who come together to talk about the things that they hate. And they finally had a physical space in which to enact those thoughts. Right. And seeing it was absolutely terrifying. I have a lot of Jewish friends who are I'm very triggered by all the swastikas we're seeing. And of course, Black and brown people obviously terrified. But I also think that the reaction 2 days afterwards when we started doxing them, I say, if you were on the internet frequently doing Twitter and things like that, you saw the pouring out of who is this person? Find them. Where do they work? What do they do? Call their employer. Let them know. And now we see them getting fired and crying. Right. What am I going to do? And maybe the police will beat me. If anything, that just seems you haven't been paying attention. You don't care. You're just talking out of your ass. If you're one of these white nationalists, then you have no idea really what's going on in the world. So a bunch of ignorant people with torches doesn't scare me, but it does make me want to be just as visible to that demographic so that they can know we're out here.
I think that it's funny because part of me is you're right, absolutely. No, because I'm not scared. I've seen this in my lifetime before. I'm not tripping. You're fucking crazy and you're not real people. My issue comes when agenda and policy is matching the institutionalized version of that, which is what is the harder part to fight and has been the harder part to fight. And we just started making progress. Like when Obama's Justice Department is like, you know what, that whole war on drugs and weed thing, like what the brown folks and black folks is being treated real different. Let's take a relook at that. Right. But then we got Jeff Sessions that only gets to sort of be sanctioned by this person who, whether or not he has full-on racist KKK ideology, I don't know. I actually don't really care. But I do care that you have appointed people that will continue to perpetuate the institutionalized racism that has existed pretty much since the end of slavery in its own variations over the years. And when we were just making headway to like get people, because there's the good white people that Trump was actually talking about, not the ones that were marching with the neo-Nazis, but the ones who just sort of exist and like want the best for their families and want people to be able to live and do their thing and are not like actively trying to attack black and brown people or make life difficult for them, don't always receive that they can be implicit or complicit in institutionalized racism, and they were just starting to see that like, ooh, well maybe there's something to this. And now the message has completely shifted, and whatever we say and we don't say, there's still a huge portion of the country that supports, believes, and agrees with what Trump is doing. Whether or not they agree with all of it is irrelevant, but they are accepting and supporting of it, which is why he's still in office. And if he's still there for another 3.5 years, there's so much
I can't even
that can be done and destroyed in that. Forget the tiki torches and them walking with open guns. Like at this point, but there's also money behind that that we don't discuss, and money that is fueling politics that in ways that we don't really want to think about or maybe even know about, and that's what actually scares me.
The hope to me though is that like if the presidency continues to be the train wreck that it is, that like there might be kind of a counter reaction again. I mean, like it is interesting. I grew up in the community of people you're talking about, of like privileged white people who aren't bad people and who are fine with black people, but like don't realize that like voting for him is complicitly advancing racism, you know, just because they're not around black people. Like it's like, and so it's interesting. It's been interesting for me though to see like my family and like their friends kind of be like, whoa, this is like really bad. I don't know. It's like you hope and you pray that like it almost, I hate to say it does get bad enough, but like I think I'm gonna say it, like people need to get woke again, like especially in communities like the one I grew up in, and like I hate that.
Was that your Childish Gambino quote right there? Stay woke.
Stay woke. Stay woke.
But like, I hate that this is the way it's happening. But like, there's a part of you that's like, maybe this has to be the way. I don't know.
I think just that history is cyclical, and that we'll eventually be back at this point again in some different kind of way, and perhaps with another group cycles. Under thumb. Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
it's
unfortunately,
tough,
that's scary though. But that's
is it scary? It's just unfortunate. Like because we can obviously sit here and talk about it and intellectualize it and be like, but we don't actually have to be back at this point, guys. Like there are actually things we can do to never be here again. And most of us, you don't even have to be like super elitist, like educational, to be like, you know what? We understand habits, we understand cycles as people, and we know that you have to choose different for something different to happen. So the idea that we refuse to continue to choose different is an active choice of preference from where I sit. And I don't, and it's just a weird sort of play to figure out like, are we really just doomed to cyclical interaction forever? Is that what we're telling ourselves as humans?
I think we're starting to see potential for change and for growth. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the candlelight vigil that happened at the same place with the torch, I don't know, carrying what's happening. But I like the idea of that. I think if we can move into a South Korea state of mind where we're like, you did what? No, all of us in the street right now, just sit, stare, make sure they move. South Korea recently outed their president. If you weren't aware, it took them 3 months as an entire country of basically being like, no, she has to go. And it worked. Iceland overran their banks in 6 months, I think, by doing a similar thing. So it definitely is possible, but I don't know,
Do we
Americans,
care enough?
we're slow.
Yeah, do we
I don't
care
know.
enough?
We
And only
just
time
want
will
big
tell.
booties and money and titties. That's all it is.
Right, but one thing I did you see that the two of the Charlottesville victims are suing James Fields, who was the driver of the car, and also the rally organizer for $3 million. So,
Good.
I hope that they get that.
Get your money.
But then,
Did you see him
but Michael, I have a hesitation with this. Where does that money come from as far as because clearly James doesn't have that money, or is this going to be one of those things where it goes through all of these different suits and they're never really allocated the money that they deserve?
Probably, but it's symbolic, right?
I was gonna say the same thing. Like they'll get something, dollars and cents, and as long as they're hurting in some way, particularly the organizer, who my favorite part about everything aftermath-wise was him getting run out of town,
Right.
which was amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think so there's other alt-right protests planned, and there was a whole thing in San Francisco that
some
people
got
were worried
canceled,
about.
too.
Well, they were saying it's like this debate. Should the Park Services granted them the permit to do the rally because it's free speech and there's whatever, but the mayor was trying to shut it down, saying it's dangerous, whatever. So there's been a lot of debate back and forth about, well, at what line do we draw the whole free speech thing? And there's the whole law that was instituted in, I think, the late 70s about if there's obvious public danger, in terms of there being violence or whatever, then that gives government officials
Black
the right
Lives
to shut
Matter
it
took a
down.
knee after the police shooting that happened in Texas. I think it's more than appropriate to ask any organization after a violent react, especially after a terrorist attack, to say you take a month or something, take a knee
take a little
for us
period.
to. On a more city planning level, I think if you cannot assure the safety of your citizens, you shouldn't be having rallies. But if you have if it's just a strict march, up a street for a couple of blocks, you can rope that off. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be allowed to just go out, but I also think that it's hilarious they want to go to major cities because black people are going to be right there just making y'all look foolish, but whatever.
Are there more statues? What are the goals with these other protests?
Yeah, I think so,
Just
especially
being
now that there was
there.
the exodus of, we were talking about Baltimore
Yeah.
earlier, and the mayor
Take
there
down
was
the
just
statue.
so all of these statues are gone now. I
Yeah.
know New York.
They're not
one
gone
of the
now.
banks.
They're definitely still around.
still around.
Especially south. But there's been a movement to remove them for probably the last 3 to 5 years. Because I know New Orleans was taking down a bunch of theirs and that kind of thing. But it's an excuse. They don't give a damn about the
They
statue.
don't. But
Yeah.
I do think they should take some time off from doing the next rally, though. I mean, I think we need a grieving period. Otherwise, you got to have so much security on alert, at this stage,
And not your security.
and not your security, exactly.
I know. I just would like to see the police show up in their SWAT gear and their helmets and they,
At the
All the-
very least.
at the very least.
Yeah.
The way that they show up for Black Lives Matter. But we're going to move on real quick and see if we can get you guys' opinion, because obviously we are talking about all this antiquated shit like racism and Nazism and all this stuff. But
Here we go.
we spoke a few weeks ago about HBO's new series that they are working on with the Game of Thrones creators. It's called Confederate, and basically it's an alternate reality series, and it's sort of following the United States as if slavery was never abolished and what happens in the country, and that's about all we really know about it. Abolitionists still exist, the North still exists, the South still exists.
They're on their
slavery's
third
in the
Civil
South.
War, so that
Yeah. So it's still a struggle. It's not like they're like slavery is the best thing ever, but it's a struggle that the nation is going through. So they have this series that they're working on that's upcoming, and there was a hashtag out called #NoConfederate that was led by April Rain that really caught some traction online, and they're literally trying to get it shut down before it even goes into production, because the series has not gone into production, for those of you guys that don't know. But after the events of Charlottesville, HBO still gave a statement to the New York Times that said the following, quote, "We support everybody's right to express an opinion, but the suggestion of irresponsibility on our part is simply undeserved. HBO has a long history of championing intelligent storytelling, and we will approach this project with the same level of thoughtfulness that has always defined our programming. We recognize the sensitivity of this project and will treat it with the respect that it deserves. Our creative partners should be given time to develop the series rather than face prejudgment." Have your opinions changed or been altered by what happened in Charlottesville as to whether or not HBO should move forward with the series?
I think they should move forward with it at the end of the day. I mean, listen, this is great publicity for them. Let's just be 100. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I would make a statement right now, too. It's unfortunately the best time to do it because people are paying attention. That means it's going to stay on their radar, and it's going to mean that people are going to be talking about it.
I think it's foolish, but I did talk to several professors who teach media studies, and we were having mostly black women. We were having a conversation about Confederate and whether that should happen or not. The main points I drew from that conversation are HBO is a subscription-based service that has never hurt for anything, so they will continue to create whatever content they want. Lambasting them does not a lot for them. There are a lot of people worried that the hashtag was attacking HBO and they would think that they were losing black viewership. I know Black Girl Nerds partnered with April Rain in pushing that hashtag. At the end of the day, they're not there to attack HBO because Insecure and Ballers and a bunch of the other shows and things that they produce are quality and amazing. I think a lot of the hesitation comes from the fact that these two creators who have they have the most watched show. HBO's not going to do anything to damage their relationship with them. But I do think, especially just as a black person, a black viewer, y'all don't handle slavery real well. You didn't do it. You didn't do it right in Game of Thrones. I really don't want you to have another show where you get to do it. That's all you're focused on is slavery, because the few times you showed it was real problematic. And so I don't have a lot of faith that you can handle the material. Now, maybe they shock me. I don't intend to watch the show. I will at least give it a full season before I attempt to watch it.
But there are black producers and writers associated with Confederate versus
which
Game
we
of Thrones,
didn't hear about in the original press release.
Right.
Those guys got marched out after they got a shitstorm thrown at them. So maybe they do well. Again, I'm about black creators. I'm about telling these kind of stories, but it's just, I guess it's frustrating. I read a lot of like alt fiction history. It's one of my favorite genres. And there were a ton of stories where the future does not still have black people in chains. And those stories are honestly just stories I'm more interested in. Now, maybe you have something nuanced and incredible to say about, slavery in the future. It's going to be a hard sell for me. Personally, I'd rather them pick up East versus West, which is a future where the black slaves are, Comet lands in the middle of America during the Civil War, stopping everything, and everyone just goes to their own corners. Black people inherit Louisiana, get all the oil down there, they become the Kingdom of Louisiana, and it's effing dope. And it still talks about like prejudice and things. That doesn't go away just because there's money, but it's a different history that I think is more interesting. Amazon coming out with their new project.
That's kind of the Woolpacker project a little bit,
And Aaron Magruder, who's the best.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
I'm super pumped about that one.
Yeah.
The counterpoint I've kind of felt around Confederate, and granted, like, I may be less merited to speak on this because I don't have the same experience as you guys do, but Handmaid's Tale, like, how does that show portray women?
That's different, though, because the way the handmaids are treated, and essentially all women are treated, is just a mirror to how women are currently treated.
But do you not feel like it's a mirror for how the African American?
No, because I'm not a slave. There's the difference between women being subjugated and being told to do this and pushed into corners in subtle ways, in the ways we live now, and then enhancing those and just basically bringing them to their eventual conclusion.
Right.
In Handmaid's Tale made sense to me. It is a mirror to society. You can see different. It's shocking because you're like, oh my God, that's like my real life right now. But black people are not slaves. We definitely have to face prejudices.
I kind of feel where you're going, because my argument has been, I actually want to see what they do with Confederate. And I still, even after this weekend, because I really thought about it, I was like, I don't know, like, where am I at with that? And I still fall back on, in the ideal universe where unicorns exist, that these super smart people at HBO working with these amazing black writers and everything, art can really still be a mirror. And though it is not, I agree, it's not the same as Handmaid's Tale to sort of foretell this society where slavery still exists. I think this idea that the white people that I love and know that feel we were so evolved beyond racism and beyond what our past history was. You guys haven't been slaves in 200 years. Like, what's the big deal? And if it's done well, I think it actually can be a mirror and show a light in a way that maybe we don't expect about how we are not so far removed from what that was and what that could have meant for everybody. So I think there's power in that. And the fact that Will Packer's project is also something that can exist in the same space is what, for me, gives it value, because the goal has, at least from what I understand and what I believe as an artist, is that there has to be space for both all the time. And it's the black people telling the black version of what they want to tell, and these people telling the version of that they want to tell. And previously it's always been, it's been exclusively white folks trying to tell the stories of all the people,
Right.
and they don't always get it right. And the fact that there's a platform and that there's room for both of those projects to exist in the same space, I think only will elevate both of those projects and will speak different things to different people at different times. And so for me, I obviously haven't seen it yet, so it could be on some
We
bullshit.
don't even have a script to read.
You know, we don't have
Yeah,
a script. We don't
quality.
really know a plot line. All we know is that there's this generic sort of idea of what this is supposed to be. So I don't know where they're going to go with it. It could turn into a total disaster. I think it's scary, but from an artist perspective,
Yeah.
that's when you have to do it.
I'm just
because it
thinking,
is
like,
scary.
what if it's great and my parents watch it? You know? They watch Handmaid's Tale and they have a very different view.
Perspective of it
Yeah,
after that.
and I'm like, it might be terrible. I hate to say it probably will be terrible, but what if it's really nuanced
Yeah.
and awesome and like the America watches it? These are the creators of Game of Thrones.
That's
Whether or
what
not
I'm
it's
saying,
good, they
yeah.
have a huge platform,
Yeah.
and like, what if they do something amazing?
I think maybe
Is it
because
worth the
of
risk?
Yeah,
the
I don't
Game of
know.
Thrones aspect to it, I just feel like they're not going to put anything out there that is horrible. And then the fact that I know that
Well,
they
some
do
people
have.
argue that there's some things about Games of Thrones that are pretty horrible.
That's what I'm saying. Like the scenes that
Right.
really bother people are the scenes that are going to need to be most touched upon in the new show. Like Sansa's rape scene, which caused a huge uproar
Yeah.
because of the way it would depicted her and that kinds of
Absolutely,
situation.
right.
Or even when Daenerys frees slaves twice in that show, and both times you get a real white savior kind of
Yeah.
lens going on. So I'm cautious of it, and I feel
We
like
all
that
have-
concern
And I'm with
is
you
valid.
that, but like, that's why I said that my point is with this is that they have black producers and black
Yeah.
writers that are involved with this. So maybe that will change the dynamic of this because that's not the case with Game of Thrones.
But then again, money is still involved, so it could all be a shitstorm, and we're only going further. But we're already going backwards anyway, so why don't we go backwards real fast?
Yeah, you're right. All right.
Either way.
It's got to be years off, right? I mean, like,
They
they
don't
have to
even-
be.
I don't know.
Can you imagine how nervous that writer's room is every time something gets pitched? But like,
Yeah.
there's
I think it's
so
supposed
much.
to be out
I think
next
it's
year,
next year.
2018.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
the thing
pretty
is, with
sure.
all,
I
I'm
don't know if they've
so
begun
glad.
shooting yet, though.
No, they haven't started shooting.
With all the flack they faced, like, good. I mean, like,
Yeah.
the only thing you hope is that, like, if they weren't approaching their projects with sensitivity, they certainly will be now. And like,
Absolutely. Well, we hope so.
yeah, we hope.
We hope so.
But
Yeah, we'll see.
we can keep going because I'm like, sensitivity ain't really always what you need.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we'll see. I mean,
see.
in the end, like, again, I don't judge it until I've seen it. But
I think censorship of art's very dangerous.
I
Always.
agree.
Like, always.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Do I think it sounds wild as fuck? Absolutely. Like,
So you
this is
think
gonna
they should
be.
just go all in?
That was my thing. Like, I felt like don't play around and try to make it some. I don't want no damn Gone with the Wind shit. Like,
Right.
go in. If
Show
you're
the
gonna
hard
go in,
stuff.
you go in, and I want to see an understanding of the way that history is in existence now. And why things sort of are the way they still are. And like, if you can sort of weave that in and figure that out as a storyteller, I think you're brilliant. And I don't think there's anything wrong with sharing that story.
All right. Well, we'll find out. Sometime.
see.
We'll see in the next year.
We'll be talking about it next year. Like, y'all, that's some bullshit. They got these slaves,
They got these
fucking
slaves.
bitches, like that. This
It's all these rape scenes.
nonsense.
Like,
They
what
just
is
got
this?
black girls running around with like, this is a
Right,
mess.
right,
This is a mess.
Right.
But I hope not.
I hope
really
not. I hope it
not.
is an intelligent show that people can learn from, and that the writing is as good as.
Otherwise, they can
some
put
of the
it in
writing
that
for Game of
chicken
Thrones.
that's on the White House lawn and shoot that shit to space.
Wow. All right. On that note, we're gonna move on to our ER Web Story Spotlight of the Week.
Web story spotlight of the week.
Someone who's in the news right now, not for chicken, is Steve Harvey. He is kind of, this is an interesting story.
weird story.
This is a weird story to me because technically to me it's not about Steve Harvey, but we'll get into it. So basically, Steve Harvey's third wife, Marjorie, she was married formerly to a drug lord by the name of Jim L. Townsend, who was 68. So documents have revealed that the FBI and the DEA suspected Marjorie participated in a drug ring with her former husband. So both the FBI and DEA believe that they have substantial evidence of her being in illegal activities and would arrest her if Mr. Townsend, her husband, did not, come forward with their demands. So reports show that Townsend was later indicted for attempting to buy 40 kilos of cocaine, something we all need in our life, right?
A whole lot of coke, y'all.
That's a whole lot of coke. That was one hell of a night. All right.
He's tired, guys.
He's tired.
Don't approach him in his dressing room.
You're right, exactly. Sentenced to life in prison. He served 26 years and was released in January 2017 after being granted a pardon by the then president, Barack Obama. What's the matter?
Damn. I'm like, wait, he done already served 20 years?
Yeah, he already served 20 years. So Marjorie split from Townsend less than 5 years into his sentence. But quickly she got involved with another drug kingpin named Donald Woods. He followed her third child, Lori, in 1997, and they married in 2000, around the time the FBI started to investigate Woods for his role in a drug smuggling operation. So, I mean, Marjorie, you like a drug smuggler.
She likes cash dollars.
She likes that cash.
She's a high fashion girl.
This is way more to be about Marjorie than anything else, and I feel like I want to be her best friend. Like, what? Girl, you rolled from 2 drug dealers to Steve Harvey?
Yeah.
She leveled
And
up.
they got married. Steve Harvey and Marjorie got married in 2007. So now that all this stuff is
That's
kind of...
literally
She
like
did that so fast.
5 years later.
Yeah, she gets so listen.
Good for you, girl.
Mama's naughty must be real good.
I want to watch her biopic.
See, her eyes are beautiful.
Her eyes
I
are
get it. It's
gorgeous,
probably
yeah.
all here. She's just luring people. I love it.
Well,
I
all this has come out because of the fact that there was a report that Radar Online put out about his first wife, Steve Harvey's first wife, who apparently
mad.
she's they've been in court for several years because or they were in court for several years because she said that basically Steve
didn't pay
left
child
them, didn't pay child support, she had a baby, he's
so
gone back and
black.
forth.
Like,
So with that history, all this other stuff has kind of come out about Marjorie.
This is insane.
Now, Steve and Marjorie have not made a statement about this whole drug
what's she
smuggling
supposed
campaign.
to say? Yeah, I fucked a drug dealer, and it was good. Like, what is she gonna say?
Well, that's why it's interesting because all the news stories are like Steve Harvey involved in a drug smuggling allegation.
Yeah, they definitely. That was the headline.
And I was like, what?
And I was shocked. I was like, wait, what?
I was
He
like,
was on the
what?
Steve
It's all the
Harvey
fine
show in
print. Steve Harvey's
1997.
wife.
What?
Right.
Drug smuggling.
I was like, is this going to be your new book, Steve? What's going on?
But I would
Think
be
like a dealer.
scared. Like, you know how you said you want to be her best friend? Like, I don't want, I want to be her best friend from afar. Like, I want to read about her, but like, when you on that level of drug dealer, I don't want to be hanging out with you.
Steve got pockets. One case is over 26 years old. We got even longer because he got out in, 97?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wait, he got out in 90? I thought you said he got out in 2017. So
Okay,
he
all
went
right, okay.
in, girl,
Okay.
in the late 90s.
Yeah.
So, and then she broke up while he was in jail. So he could be mad because she broke up with him while in jail, messed around with another drug
Steve
dealer, and then
Harvey
turned
just
around
needs
with
one good
Steve.
security guard and like 4 good lawyers, and they're going to be fine.
He'll be fine. They'll be fine.
I'm not worried. Steve Harvey got pockets for days.
I think I would just be more worried to think about that she was married to two or was messing
like,
with
girl,
two
what's
big
going
drug
on?
dealers. Like, what's
That's
going on with
probably
you?
85% of his attraction to
I was
her.
gonna
It's
say.
like, and I was
It's
next.
exciting.
That's weird, man.
I almost admire him more though, because sometimes he can be. Sometimes Steve Harvey can be kind of on a soapbox and like kind of
Sometimes.
kind of judgmental, right? And he's married to someone with a very interesting past. I don't know.
I wonder if
he's
she
got a
thinks like a
colored
lady.
past. I mean,
He's
she
got-
is the third wife.
She is the third wife.
And
And he's a second husband. I mean, I don't know. It's just like part
He's
of
a
me
third husband.
Yeah.
See, like part of me is like your past. Obviously, in this case, your
Maybe it's a
past.
perfect match.
Yeah, I know.
Clearly.
I'm like, I don't judge. Like I'm like, you know what?
You want a drug dealer? You get it, girl.
That's
Do
yeah.
you?
I'm like, all of us have past relationships we regret, including both of them. Some are with drug dealers. I don't know.
I
But
mean,
that's
it's true.
like high.
That's a
I
lot.
can't. The high level drug dealer.
That's
is
high level,
intense.
and to me, that just says a lot about her. Maybe that's me being judgy, though. Am I being judgy?
No,
No,
that
she's
means
just
she got
like Karuchi.
skills.
Like I feel like sometimes girls
She got
gotta
some
get
skills.
through
Just like
their bad
Karuchi.
boy
She got
phase,
skills.
and then like after that, we realize
But
like,
two
oh, okay, what I'm looking
marriages,
for
girl.
is like
2 marriages.
And she got
she
the baby.
wants a
And 3
dude who's a
kids.
boss. That's all she's looking for. Some guy with some power. She found one. I'm just proud of her. I'm
She
so
found
happy.
3. Just
She had
two
to
of
get
them.
rid of the
Just 2 of them went to jail.
2 of them were not.
You know
good.
what though? It
Okay.
would not shock me if Steve Harvey was like deeply addicted to something crazy and we just didn't know.
Don't let that go viral.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, I hope he's not. But if
So
that,
when he's smiling on Family Feud, you think he just did a little in the back?
That explains the
If that's
teeth.
That's my-
if that came out in 10 years, would you guys be like shocked?
I'm not shocked about anything anymore.
I'm not.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't know.
I'm warped.
I would
so.
only be shocked because I don't feel like his energy reads drug to me.
Yeah.
Like, cause he's very like
Philippines.
It reads very.
I don't know. It can read.
Do it read druggy?
I mean,
crazy coke.
I hear
don't
you.
feel like a
Probably
crazy
not.
coke because I'm trying to think. Like heroin, nah.
Nah.
Cocaine is too like nah. Alcoholic.
He's too energetic for.
He seems kind of
pot.
drunk. I love
He
it.
could hit the sauce a
But
little
well,
bit.
he does seem like a drunk, but like drunk uncle drunk. Like so, like I
Yeah.
don't feel like it's like and like
Maybe that's the
Right.
reason.
I like Steve Harvey. I feel like I'm bad mouth. Let me just
No.
qualify.
no,
that.
I
No, I
enjoy
love
Steve
I
Harvey.
love Steve
Look, we're all like, no, we love Steve.
I know, but we love
I
Steve.
love
I also love clowning problematic people.
Yeah.
Steve Harvey's a problematic person.
Yeah, he is.
Like,
He's just trying to help the ladies out, girl. Help y'all
And y'all
understand
listen.
the men.
Y'all listen.
I don't know who y'all
listen,
is.
but it was not.
Y'all
Hey,
bought that book.
I did
Y'all
not
saw
buy that
movie.
book.
When that book
Y'all
has
saw that
I
movie.
still ain't seen one of the movies all the way
I refuse
through.
to read the book. I'm so angry about the title. I couldn't even get to the
That's
book.
because you're not thinking like a man,
Why?
Joel.
That's
That's right. You're not thinking like a
That's
man,
your
Joe.
Why
You
are
think
you
like a
mad?
man.
Why are you mad at the book?
Yeah,
Think
why you
like
mad
a
at the
man.
book?
Why you mad at the
Why
book?
you mad at the book?
Why you mad at the
You guys
title?
are genuinely asking. Oh,
I'm
okay.
genuinely
All
asking.
right. I don't think that a man should be able to tell any woman how she needs to think or act to make it through her day, life, or relationship.
But to his defense, these women want to know why certain things are happening,
to
that men
them
do
with a man.
consistently. So you have to ask a man to find
As
out.
somebody who consistently consults horoscopes, I understand the need to go to crazy advice to try to figure out your whacked out life.
love you, Joel.
get it, but nah, like I just don't want to hear it. If you found the book at all helpful or it uplifted you or got you that man you wanted, like.
Apparently it did
power
for some.
to you. Power to you. But
title
to
is
me,
a
that
little-
says
He got a talk show off
in
of
order to
it.
be in a happy relationship, you must adhere to certain rules, which will fundamentally change or idealistically change who you are, and that makes me really uncomfortable.
But is that different from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus?
I would not read that book either.
Hey, there it is.
Is it
Consistent.
But you
different, though.
just are in your own category with it. Then you don't feel.
Now, I
you
didn't say
feel
people
like-
should be mad at it. I just don't like
She
it.
doesn't like it, but I'm curious because if you think that men and women think differently, especially specifically in
They
heterosexual
absolutely think differently,
relationships,
yeah.
then what he technically is speaking to is the idea that women are thinking that men think like women, but they need to think that men think like men. So he's
Wow,
theoretically
I had to think
speaking
about that.
to
I had to
women
think
to
about
say,
that.
this is how you think like a man. And that's the only way you'll process what
Yeah,
he's
but the
doing.
second half of that title is act like a woman, which is the idea, again, adheres you to a very, strict idea of what a woman is.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not strict. It's a specific idea.
Yeah.
Because there are specific men, Steve Harvey being one of them,
Exactly.
that this is what a woman needs to behave like in a relationship with this type of man.
Right.
See, that makes me want to punch someone in the face.
But
I feel like
that
you're
just
looking at me to
means
punch
you
me.
don't get with that man. That just means that man ain't for you.
It's valid, and I get it. And again, I'm sure it's helpful to some people. But when someone's like, you need to behave a certain way, like I want to flip tables. Like,
It's
how
not your
dare you?
book.
How dare you suggest I behave any
And
way
that's
other
not
than
your
what comes
man.
naturally to
and
me?
that's definitely not your man.
No, not.
That's not
No.
your man. So we know what Joel won't be
Joel
doing.
will not be humping Steve Harvey.
Joel will not be thinking like a
Marjorie
man.
might cut her because Marjorie got a pass.
He got a pass. And Joel will not be thinking like a man anytime soon. All right. Well, our last story of the day is Mr. LeBron James. Who would have known that he was going to make even more money than he already makes? So basically, his production company is developing a series about the historic entrepreneur, Madam C.J. Walker. If you guys don't know who that is, she is created a beauty empire from the ground up, which at the time was believed to be an unattainable thing for a black woman. She's also known for developing a revolutionary hair care formula for women of color. So, according to Variety, this will be the first scripted drama series for LeBron's production company. The project will reportedly feature award-winning actress Octavia Spencer.
Avi.
So I think she's perfect for it.
She
Even when they
is.
show the picture,
Yup, she looks just like
She looks a
CJ.
lot like her. The series will be based on the book On Her Own Ground, written by the great-great-grandmother of Walker. It will reportedly serve Lelia Bundles, if I'm pronouncing her name wrong, I'm sorry about that. She will reportedly serve as a consultant for the show, with Nicole Asher and Black Nativity's Casey Lemons will serve as co-executive producers, so they got a powerhouse team behind them. This is what LeBron had to say about it. He said, "I'm really proud of this project, and that Spring Hill will be partaking with Octavia to tell this important story." He said, "Every American should also know the story of Madam C.J. Walker. She was is an innovator, an entrepreneur, social activist, and total game changer whose story has been left out of the history books, which many have. I hope this project lives up to her legacy with that story and will educate and inspire. Maybe he needs to give it HBO as well. On a side note, once again, he's continued to make even more money because apparently he bought this Blaze Pizza.
He invested
in Blaze Pizza.
Money to LeBron.
I like Blaze.
But he invested for less than $1 million, right?
Yeah,
he is now making $25 million for his 10% stake in the national food chain.
And it's
you go ahead, LeBron.
It's
Get it.
You get it, buddy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That is what I'm talking about. But
Yes.
congratulations for that. I'm interested to see what his production company does.
I cannot wait. I thought he was behind Survivor's Remorse.
Yep.
Okay, because when you said it was his first scripted drama,
I think
was
he had
wait,
executive
what?
produced
That's a
that.
comedy.
But it wasn't his.
Survivors is more of a comedy, which may be why that
that's
when they
probably
said
why
Maybe that's why they said
drama,
that.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
I love that show.
But yeah,
That's a great
it's
show.
really good.
All right, that's all I got for the day. Joelle,
Hey.
where can fans find you?
Hey guys, I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique every week at blackgirlnerds.com.
And guys, my name is Jeff Graham. You guys can find me at Jeffrey C. Graham. For fans of scripted dramas and comedies, I host a show on Fridays called The Unproduced Table Read. Courtney
It's
guested
so
a couple
great,
Thank
yeah.
you. We're reading a comedy tomorrow called Classified for fans of like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or The Office. Tune in. It's an NSA set workplace comedy. It's a nice remedy to all the shit we've been dealing with the last week. So that's tomorrow at 10 a.m. on our sister network, The Popcorn Talks.
Check it out because
it.
Jeff is very talented.
Jeff is
Thanks,
great,
Sarah.
and that's
Courtney.
a great show. I love it. You can find me everywhere at Stewart Starlet, and hopefully LeBron James holla at us, sister, because y'all doing a historical drama, and I want to be in it so bad.
Go ahead and submit that tape, girl.
Yes!
You can find me at Derrial Christon on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and at a pool on Saturday for my birthday.
Yes, he will.
With these people.
And he will be wearing a European neon green Speedo.
That was just last week. But maybe if I get enough champagne on Saturday. All right, we will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Peace.
Keven Undergaro, Derrial, Christon, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio, Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in. The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.